Hello there folks, and welcome back to another speed paint video. The very first game that I ever played was Pokémon Colosseum, and to this day it remains one of my favorite Pokémon games. Pokémon Colosseum is odd. It's like a really weird game in the history of the Pokémon franchise, and I can't emphasize how happy I am that it's going to be like officially virtual console-able on the Nintendo Switch 2, so that's really cool. That's very exciting for someone like me who has so much nostalgia for this game and its sequel, XD Gale of Darkness. But something weird about these games that I feel like not a lot of people know is the shinies. Only really like hardcore Gen 3 shiny hunters seem to know, but Pokémon Colosseum and Gale of Darkness had really weird shinies. Some of them were normal and looked like how the shinies look in the mainline games, but some of them are really odd looking or very, very different. And I just think they're neat, and I thought it would be fun to draw the legendary beasts who play a major role in the story of that game in their Colosseum shiny forms. So without further ado, why don't we get into the speed paint? The most dramatically different of the beasts would be Suicune. And it's shiny in the mainline games, it stays this nice blue, it gets a very blue mane, but in Pokemon Colosseum it kind of takes on this nearly Baja Blast color and gets a black mane, kind of fitting in more with the other two and the sort of black and white or toned down and muted colors that they get. I guess for them they're supposed to look a little bit more like gold and silver if I had to guess. At least that's my suspicion for their colors in the mainline games. But for Suicune, it got to be blue for Crystal, and in Colosseum, it got to be black for who knows what reason. But either way, it looks really cool. I think it's a really fun thing. And I thought I would draw it doing a very, like, classic sort of scene that Suicune is known to do, which is leaping across bodies of water to purify them. Which I think is kind of fun from a Shadow Pokemon angle as well. Since in the Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness games, there are Shadow Pokemon that need to be purified to heal their hearts from artificial damage, which I don't feel like explaining the story of those games, but the long and short of it is it's fun that Suicune's like a purifying force when it's like one of the most major Shadow Pokemon you catch in the first game. And I thought it would be fun to just draw it doing this fun little leap and with this nice backlit environment. I had a lot of fun with these clouds and these colors as well. This was just a great excuse to do a lot of fun painting with water and sky, and have a fun excuse to draw Suicune doing a fun pose. This pose that it's doing is inspired by, like, the sprites for it for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, if I remember right, where it's doing a somewhat action-y pose like this. And of course, instead of their shiny, I did the Colosseum shiny. And it is actually, like I said in the beginning, it is definitely the most recognizable of any of the Colosseum shinies for the beasts. Like, Entei and Raikou aren't actually that different from their original forms, they're just a little more desaturated, but I feel like Suicune's shiny is pretty recognizable as being quite dramatically different. And even though the way I shaded this makes it a little bit less obvious, I still think that black mane is very recognizable as being the type of shiny that it is. And it was just a lot of fun drawing, like, such a fun rendered piece here, even though, like, the background is really simple. It really is just, like, water, a horizon, and a sky. But I just had a ton of fun with the textures and colors in this. I had this fun, like, overlay layer that I did on top of everything that I think adds so much visual interest to the clouds. And I don't know, this scene just feels like it's so much fun. I feel like you can totally almost hear Suicune splashing around on the water and purifying it. I even gave an extra smaller light source underneath its little paw there to make it really feel like it's purifying the water, kind of like the visual effect you see in the 4th Pokemon movie. And I just had a lot of fun with it. Suicune's always a little treat to draw. Its face is deceptively difficult to do without making it look weird, but I'm still really happy with the result for this, and yeah, this was just a lot of fun to do. And next up for our legendary beast, we have Entei. Entei is a bit more of a subtle shiny, but in my opinion, I feel like the major difference is how much more desaturated it is compared to the mainline version. Like, I feel like the mainline shiny Entei has more orange-ish fur, Whereas the Colosseum shiny is a lot more of this like drab brown. It's really hard to find nice clean images of these shinies, by the way. Like I feel like not a lot of people have, much less record video of their shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Colosseum or Gale of Darkness, so finding images as reference was pretty difficult, but thankfully I was able to find something, and just like with the Suicune piece, I decided to make this really about the backlighting, because man, I love drawing backlighting. And these warm shadows actually kind of kill the desaturation here with Entei, but still, I would say the most desaturated thing in the landscape, so it still stands out for that, even with all the warm shadows and warm light on top of it. And I tried to make it seem like it's having a nice time in this, like, field. I wanted to have this really dominated by that warm palette, so even though I'm sure the grass isn't actually pink, I did paint it as such to give it that more convincing, more cohesive colored look. And I, of course, added sparkles, just like I did with Suicune, and these are actually more as a subtle reference to the fact that they're shiny, and it gives a little bit more texture as well as, like, a final touch. And I also had fun painting those background mountains. Like, they're simple, they're extremely rudimentary takes on, like, a background mountain for me, but it was still fun putting them there. It really, like, kind of tells you that it's near more of a volcanic area than Suicune, who's just in the middle of the freaking ocean. And it's just a lot of fun. I just had fun putting in these plants, putting in this grass, making this little landscape. And it just feels like it's a nice little natural environment for Entei to be hanging out in. It was also really fun to draw the cloud on its back, by the way, that cloudy mane that it has. Man, that's a fun shape to try to draw out, and it was fun to try to find a balance between, like, making it feel like it's moving, but also, like, making it feel like it's balanced in the composition, and I feel pretty happy with the result. I made this guy also very, very thick and fluffy, because I feel like that's, like, Entei's strong suit, in my opinion, is how chunky this guy is compared to the other beasts. And its face is always such an interesting thing. Like, it's made up of, like, 5 discrete chunks, I would say. Like, you've got the golden crest, you've got the tusks, and then you've got, like, the things on the side, and then just the tiniest hint of a chin for its mouth. Entei's got such an odd and distinctive face, but it's so iconic. Like, it was kind of tricky for me to get a balance there where I felt like it looked recognizably like Entei and not just like me copying the shapes and hoping for the best. And I think I managed to get there. This was a lot of fun to do. I feel like it was a little bit deceptively tricky to start, but once I found a rhythm, this was just a very fun piece to render out and do the colors for, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun drawing Entei for this piece. And of course, the last beast we have to do is Raikou, or Raikou, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna say Raikou, I think, for the rest of the video. And Raikou's so cool, everyone loves this saber-toothed tiger, little kitty cat guy, and it's just a fun creature to draw, although it was actually kind of tough to find any good reference pictures for the pose I was going for. Unlike Entei and Suicune, who I feel like have plenty of images that had the pose I was looking for, I kind of had to fly by the seat of my pants a little bit with Raikou here. But I think I managed to still hit a successful pose. I feel like it's full of action. I remember as a kid I played the Guardian Science Pokemon Ranger game, and Raikou was like if I remember right, it's like a very fast jumper ride Pokemon in that game. So I wanted to capture that sort of quick, leaping creature energy. And honestly, out of all the Colosseum Beast shinies, Raikou might be the most similar to its mainline series shiny. Like, it's not that different. Like, it's still orange with the yellow mane and the silver whiskers and the tail. Like, it's still so gold and silver and orange, but in every screenshot that I saw, like, I feel like the orange was way deeper red than it is in the mainline games. So I tried to really exaggerate that to really make it feel like it's not the normal mainline shiny. Honestly, it wasn't even Raikou who gave me the most trouble in this illustration. It was the background. You'll see it in the process here. I went through a lot of iterations on how to draw these hills. My concept was that it was against a nice dark night stormy sky with a bolt of lightning in the background, providing another situation of backlighting. And unlike the sun for the other two, this one is a nice flash of, lightning. And I wanted to make it seem like it's in like this windswept grassy pasture, since I feel like a nice grassy wheat-filled field really like implies wind in a way that feels nice and stormy to me. But oh boy, did I go through quite a few iterations on how to make this shading look like how I wanted, how to make this hill look like how I wanted, so I swear I spent maybe half of the process of this piece literally just doing this hill over and over and reshading it and trying to figure out how I wanted it to go, before I eventually was like, hey, I need to shade the subject of my piece here. So after a while, I eventually, I kind of let it be. I had to stop futzing with it, and I had to just continue moving on to a different part of the piece. And this one, it was very tricky. It gave me a lot of problems while I was working on it. But overall, I think I'm still pretty happy with it. I wish I could pop out Raikou more from the background, but I also didn't want it to feel like it wasn't backlit, so that was an interesting problem I had to deal with, where I was balancing between, like, having it feel like it's getting a shadow cast across it while also making it stand out against the background. And after, well, honestly, like, I swear to God, it must have been, like, at least 15 minutes of just futzing with the lighting while I was working on this. I eventually got somewhere where I was like, you know what? If I mess with it anymore, it's gonna get more weird. So I just need to find somewhere that I'm pretty happy with it and let it be. Sometimes restraint is like one of the biggest skills you can have as an illustrator. Sometimes if you keep messing with it, you're gonna lose some of the charm that you have in there, so you kind of just have to let it be. And this was a piece that was very much about that in the process for me. Still though, I'm pretty happy with it. It was fun to draw the lightning, it was fun to do all the colors and all the sweeping effects in here and stuff. And this pose is also really fun to draw too. And with that, that is all I've got for you guys today. Did you guys have a favorite one of these illustrations I did today? I think my favorite might be Suicune, but that's a little bit hard for me to choose. I feel like that's just because Suicune's my favorite of these guys overall. And, by the way, these are all actually 4K wallpapers that are made free to my Ko-fi members, so if you'd like to support me for as little as $1 a month, you can get all these wallpapers for free, as well as a bunch of other freebies on there as well. And if you'd like to support me and get some kind of physical goodies out of it, well, I've got a Kickstarter coming up at the end of the month, and that's going to be on June 1st. I'm going to be having my Mothman Pride stickers Volume 2, which will feature 30 redrawn versions of the Pride Mothman from last year, as well as a bunch of other rewards that are going to be a bit of a surprise for now. So if you'd like to follow that project, get some colorful moths, wear your pride proudly with a little bit of a little cryptid, well, why don't you go follow the project? I would love to hit 100 followers before the project launches, so if you want to help me reach that goal, why not share it with all your friends? And with that, that is all I've got for you guys today. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. So in the meantime, why don't you guys go out there and make some art?